Right now, without thinking about it, you just checked your phone. Maybe it was 5 minutes ago. Maybe it was 30 seconds ago. Maybe you're reading this because you picked up your phone for no reason at all and ended up here. You didn't decide to do that. Not really. Something pulled you. Something ancient. Something buried so deep in the architecture of your brain that you never had a chance against it. And the people who built that screen in your hand, they knew exactly what that thing was. They built a machine specifically designed to weaponize it. But here's what they didn't tell you. The reason you can't stop isn't weakness. It isn't laziness. It isn't a personal failure. It's the same force that kept your ancestors alive for 2 million years. The terrifying part, the thing that will completely change how you look at every notification, every scroll, every time your hand moves toward your phone without a conscious thought, comes later. Stick with this. Your brain is not a modern organ. That needs to land before anything else makes sense. The phone in your hand is roughly 15 years old. The brain processing the phone is roughly 200,000 years old. And the deepest reward systems inside that brain, the circuitry that makes you feel pulled towards something, compelled to check, unable to stop, that machinery is closer to 2 million years old. Neuroscientist Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan spent decades mapping the difference between two things that most of us assume are the same: wanting and liking. His research, published across the 1990s and 2000s, revealed that these are entirely separate systems in the brain. Liking, actual pleasure, is a small, quiet system. Wanting, the craving, the pull, the compulsion, is vast, ancient, and almost impossible to consciously override. Berridge called it the dopaminergic incentive salience system. Here is the key finding that changes everything. Dopamine doesn't fire when you get a reward. It fires when you might get one. Read that again. The hit doesn't come from the reward. It comes from the anticipation of an uncertain reward. And uncertainty is the most powerful trigger in the system. Your ancestors lived in an environment where uncertainty was everywhere, and most of it was dangerous. A rustle in the grass, a shadow at the edge of vision, a sound that wasn't there before. The brain that survived was the brain that could not stop investigating uncertain signals. Every time your ancestor heard something unknown and went to check it, and it turned out to be nothing, dopamine spiked anyway. Because the possibility of a threat, or food, or a mate, or any survival-relevant information was worth the cost of checking. That brain is your brain, and a notification on your phone is a perfect engineered replica of that ancient uncertain signal. The red dot. The buzz you're not sure you felt. The number you glimpsed without reading. These aren't just design choices. B.J. Fogg at Stanford University's Persuasive Technology Lab, one of the most influential researchers in behavioral design, documented how Silicon Valley developers began studying the exact same psychological triggers in the early 2000s that Berridge had mapped in his laboratory. The goal was explicit: create an uncertain reward signal strong enough to activate the dopaminergic wanting system on command. They succeeded. The scroll feed was not designed to give you good content reliably. It was designed to make good content appear unpredictably. Because if every post was good, you'd stop after reading it. But if content is sometimes great, sometimes terrible, and you never know which one is coming next, you can't stop. That's not an accident. That's a slot machine. And the pull on a slot machine is not random. It is precisely calibrated to the same Berridge wanting circuitry that kept your ancestors scanning the horizon for movement. Psychologist B.F. Skinner called this variable ratio reinforcement. A reward that arrives on a predictable schedule loses its power quickly. A reward that arrives randomly, at intervals you cannot predict, produces the most persistent, compulsive behavior ever recorded in behavioral science. It was tested on pigeons first, then on rats. Then, without the ethical paperwork, on every smartphone user on Earth. Now here's where this gets truly disturbing. You know all of this. You are reading it right now. And it won't stop the behavior. That's not cynicism. That's neuroscience. The wanting system operates below conscious awareness. Researcher Anna Lemke at Stanford University, whose clinical work focuses specifically on dopamine and behavioral compulsion, describes the modern phone as the functional equivalent of a dopamine delivery device, and notes that understanding the mechanism does almost nothing to reduce its power. The craving precedes the thought. By the time you are aware you've reached for your phone, the decision was already made. This is the part that should unsettle you. A 2019 study published in the journal PLOS One tracked the number of times participants touched their phone each day. The average was 2,617 times. Nearly two-thirds of those touches were not intentional. Participants reported no memory of initiating them. Their hands moved to the phone the way your ancestor's head turned toward the sound in the grass, automatically, below awareness, as a reflex built by millions of years of selection pressure. You are not using your phone. Your phone is using a mechanism that is far older than you are. But now we get to the part that the design engineers never built for, the thing that flips the entire frame. Your ancient brain was built for a world where uncertain signals meant something real was coming. The rustle in the grass was sometimes a predator. The returning scout was sometimes carrying food. The smoke on the horizon sometimes meant fire. The uncertainty resolved into genuine information. Your brain got its reward, and the circuit completed. The phone never completes the circuit. Researcher Jean Twenge at San Diego State University, who has tracked generational behavioral shifts across more than 40 years of data, found that increased phone use correlates not with increased connection, not with increased satisfaction, but with a specific and consistent increase in a feeling she calls restlessness without cause. The wanting system fires. The investigation begins. The scroll happens. And then, nothing resolves. Because there was never a predator or food or fire. There is only more content, calibrated to make you want the next piece. So the loop runs, and runs, and runs. 2 million years of wanting circuitry, built to resolve uncertainty in a world where uncertainty was real, now spinning inside a machine that feeds it artificial signals that never resolve, never complete, never deliver the genuine information the brain was designed to receive. That restlessness you feel when you put the phone down, the vague sense that you're missing something, the pull back to the screen even when you know nothing has changed since the last time you checked. That's not anxiety. That's not addiction in the clinical sense. That's your ancient brain doing exactly what it was built to do in an environment it was never designed for. A magnificent survival system running in a world where the threats it evolved to detect have been replaced by a rectangle that learned to impersonate them. You can't stop checking your phone for the same reason your ancestor couldn't stop scanning the horizon. The horizon was real. The question is, what is yours?